Miguel Urijah back here on the CRP, and I am joined by Devin Miller, our MMA analyst, to talk about the news coming across the board that the California kid, Urijah Faber, is considering a comeback. We haven't seen him since December of 2016. He's 39 years old at this point, 34-10 overall record. Never quite broke through and won a UFC title, but definitely one of the premier athletes, especially at the lower weight classes of the last decade. Devin, what did you think when you saw that Faber may be coming back?
Well, this is all news due to the interview that he did Monday with Ariel Helwani on Helwani's MMA show on ESPN, where he was getting on there, I think, just to talk about becoming a dad and just what he's been doing since retirement with Team Alpha Male. And they got into talking about how Urijah's been doing these grappling tournaments and stuff, and he's getting ready to do a grappling match against this teenage jiu-jitsu phenom. I forget his name, but and one thing led to another. They got into talking about TJ and TJ's time at Team Alpha Male and him failing the stroke screen, and Urijah shed some light on that about things that he's heard regarding TJ, and he mentioned about how the UFC had contacted him in the past few years to be a short-term replacement for Cub Swanson on one occasion, and then they wanted him to replace be a last-minute replacement to face the Korean Zombie last year. So the UFC's still been in contact with him. He did declare, he did say that he has still been on the USADA testing pool, but he never left that. And the thing to remember here is that Urijah will be 40 years old in May, and he had such a style that was based so much on his explosiveness. And I do think Urijah is still a fantastic athlete, and I think that he was when he retired. Still probably a top 10 bantamweight. He took some losses to Tenon Barao in the last couple of years of his career. He lost another fight to Dominic Cruz, lost to Jimmy Rivera. I think he fought Frankie Edgar at 145 pounds and took a loss there. Most of these losses were decision losses. And so he was always a very competitive guy. And Dave Tallboy, he actually won the WEC belt, I'm pretty sure, back in like 2006. So he had quite the long reigning career. He was one of the best fighters to never win UFC gold. I'm not so sure that coming out of retirement right now is necessary for where he's at in his career, but if he's got that itch, I don't think there's going to be anything that's going to stop him from doing it. Helwani was bringing up a potential fight between him and Dillashaw, which I don't think that if I was advising Faber, I wouldn't do that, but you never know.
Well, it also, if it's just based on a conversation, it's just based on a conversation. You can speculate all day, but at the same time, Faber, he's a guy that you have to find the right opponent for him. Like, who would be the right opponent for him? Because though you mentioned his style was based on explosiveness, especially early in his career, Faber's a guy that, you got to give him credit because, some of the latter versions of him, especially when he made his second run at Barao, that winning streak, he showed a lot of technique, and he showed that he had changed his style and adapted his style, just a little bit in order to maximize there. And, I think he had 3 submissions there. He's got 19 submission wins throughout his 34 wins on his career. So, I think he became a good ground fighter beyond just the wrestling prowess. He would be able to show that. So who would you put him in there against? Like, what would be a glossy match? Is it something where, do you put him in with a young lion and give the young lion a chance, or do you put him in with an older fighter for some type of retirement fight, or is there a geriatric certificate at that weight class?
Well, I think that is an interesting question. I don't really know the exact answer. Sugar Sean O'Malley, when he comes back from his suspension, I think that'd be an interesting. But that's definitely a young lion, a 23, 24-year-old kid. But I think that would be definitely something that could definitely co-main event, maybe a fight night, would be a Urijah Faber versus Sean O'Malley fight. I don't want to see Faber come back and fight a Petr Yan or Corey Sandhagen or John Lineker or some of these guys. I mean, I just don't feel that that's necessary at this point in Faber's career. But if he's got that itch for one other fight, you know, I don't really know. There's not really a specific guy who's in the same type of stage in his career that's coming to mind for Faber to fight. I was in Dominic Cruz, and that's happened 3 times. And Cruz was definitely a step ahead in those last 2 fights that they fought. So I'm not really sure where Faber's going with this. I don't think Dillashaw would be a good matchup.
Well, Dillashaw would be a year away. Well, let me ask you, let's put this scenario together here for you. Because we've already talked about the 135-pound title is vacant. I would send Faber to that weight class. I think the bantamweight is a little more, feasible for him than the featherweight. The featherweight division, I think there'll be a gap between him and the top guys that's, too big to cross. But you've got Cejudo and Marlon Moraes lined up for a title fight there. Now, Cejudo's doing everything he can on, social media and doing, what DJ didn't do and stuff to become a, iconic type of champion, a champion that's known and a face of the UFC kind of thing. But Marlon Moraes, at the end of the day, is another Brazilian that doesn't speak English, that in terms of marketing is going to be limited in some ways by what the UFC does, I believe, look at that sort of stuff because, it is important. It does affect the bottom line. So, in a wild scenario, could Urijah Faber be cleaned up and stuck in with Cejudo for a title fight?
I don't think so. I just based off of where Faber's at and he had some losses and I think it is fair to say in Faber's defense when it comes to his Morale fights that a lot of people are speculate that Morale's run was pre-USADA and that he's been one of those guys that's really just tumbled off since USADA came in, and I don't know if it's so much that with him or if it was the Dillashaw beatings that he took. But I think Cejudo and Moraes is definitely, that's pretty much on the books now already unofficially for June 8th in Chicago at, I think it's the pay-per-view right before the July pay-per-view, I think 238. And I think that's a great fight. And I just don't know what Faber has to gain from coming back other than just like a one-off fight, and I don't really know who the perfect opponent is for him right now. If I was advising Faber, just because I've seen it so many times with these guys that don't know when to hang up the gloves, is just accept that you went out on a win, keep doing your grappling tournaments, groom new fighters, enjoy Team Alpha Male. I think he said something about changing the name of Team Alpha Male to just simply Team Alpha because they've got female fighters and male fighters and all sorts of stuff coming up, which is fine. But he's got a legit gym going there. He's got things going for him. I think that he could be somebody that could be possibly put into the Hall of Fame when you consider that Zuffa owns the WEC tenure now. They own the rights to that, so. If you're counting pride competitors, you might as well count the WEC. And Urijah Faber was definitely the face of the WEC up until Jose Aldo. So I think that he could possibly be a Hall of Famer. I don't know exactly what they do with Faber when he comes back.
Well, hopefully it's just talk then from from the Helwani podcast that just kind of spun out of control. And it's not something that's definitely in the works. I agree with you. I think at this point, at 39 years old, he doesn't have much to prove. Depending on the opponent, it's always going to be something that, he has to be carefully matched. And it could be entertaining. It could be a draw to see him come back. That might be the appeal. But as you said, and Faber's been a guy that, in the business, people have known. I mean, he's always a business-oriented guy and a smart guy and worried about his brand and the brand of Team Alpha Male and stuff. It's one of the reasons the Team of Little Guys is so pervasively respected in there is because Urijah Faber stepped up and was the face of that for a long time, you know. So I don't think he needs the money. I mean, money always, you know, more money is always, you know, a plus. But I don't think he needs the money. So with that in mind, hopefully it is just talk. And we've been talking about the potential for Urijah Faber's return. The former bantamweight and featherweight contender has not fought since December 2016, but recently talk of a comeback made the rounds.